30 seconds, yeah. But should we go out directly? Because 3:30 we start already. We start at 3:30, right? We should, I think. I don't know if they are online already or not.
Good afternoon, dear Thai, dear Sangha, dear beloved community, monks, nuns, lay brothers and sisters, and those, of course, online, and joining us together for this celebration of Christmas Eve 2020. So let us, we've had two beautiful hymns, not hymns, so much carols, sorry, and to really warm up the heart and put us in a Christmas mood of, sort of being in touch with silence and the holy elements in us. So let us begin with 3 sounds of the bell to touch that silence within, to come back to our body, to our feelings, and find ourselves here in Plum Village. Even if I think there's people a little bit, there are people here in this hall, and there are people a little bit all around the world. So yet we're all together for this time that we have to be. So think of yourself in Plum Village, sharing this time together as a spiritual family. So thank you, everybody. Let's enjoy 3 sounds of the bell. So the first thing I feel I need to share is that to those of you online, it may appear that I'm giving the Christmas Eve Dharma, but I very much hope that it's not just me, that this is really an offering from Thai, from a kind of, I'm representing the Sangha with, and I just want to offer a way to share that brings us together as a spiritual family. And I start by saying that the energy of Christmas, the spirit of Christmas, has very much to do with peace as well as joy, and I want to explore that topic a little bit in the talk. And something that came to me as I was listening to the carols was somehow I was seeking some inspiration, and I came across a video of Thai sharing about trying to help boat people in when he was in Singapore. And many decades ago, perhaps in the late 70s, early, and there's a calligraphy that Thai wrote when he needed to really go deep. He really needed to hear the fellow social workers that he was with, really needed to go deep to maintain and restore their peace, because they were in a crisis, trying to help many people. And asked to leave the country, and he was practicing walking meditation, and the calligraphy that came from Thai, the insight that came is that if you want peace, peace is with you immediately. If you really want peace, and you really need it, and you ask, and you practice, peace will be there for you. You will touch peace. You practice to come back to yourself, to calm the emotions. And peace can be there. It's a little bit like saying, want to be in touch with your Buddha nature. If you want to be in touch with the energy of Christ, your Buddha nature, and Christ, the energy of Christ, the energy of God, it's always available to you. It's a question of you making yourself available. And how we practice is to make ourselves available for that energy to be there for us, to be able to access that. So sometimes we talk about generating the energy of peace, and that is true. But there is also this aspect of making ourselves available to peace, to the energy of love. So we'll talk a bit more about that. Thai's books are a compilation of his wonderful many talks on Christmas Eve in a book called Going Home, Jesus and Buddha as Brothers. Going home. We all need a home. Somewhere we feel we can say, yeah, I belong here. Somewhere we feel we can be welcomed. We are loved. We are accepted just as we are. Sometimes home needs to be a place for us where we can rest, where we can heal. And sometimes home is simply a place of joy and happiness. And it can be both. A place that is in any case safe for us. Yeah. Where we feel free to be who we are, or we can express what is in our hearts. If we have a family where we can experience that, we know we're very fortunate. And even sometimes we have to be careful. We know we can trigger each other even in our families. Families can be the very place where we can get triggered. And in the sense strong emotions can come, old patterns, and we need to also be careful with how we speak. And yet we yeah, this is my home. And if we experience that in our blood family, we have such a wonderful heritage already, and we can feel fortunate where there is peace and harmony in the home. We may have to work for that harmony, but it is possible. Sometimes the home is, the family doesn't feel like it can be our home, and we have to, we feel like we're in the winter, a bit like the bleak midwinter, where we're not sure if we have that home. But maybe with the practice we can restore conditions. There is hope. If we have a path to practice, there can be hope to restore relationships and our trust. When we know there is a place where we can go, where we can experience this love and harmony, a place where we can feel safe, we will travel, we will do anything to get there, especially at Christmas. And that, for many of us, is our family, our blood family. And we would do almost anything to make sure that we could be together at this time. And in other traditions, in other cultures, it is maybe Tet, the Vietnamese New Year. It could be Diwali in India. It could be, I'm looking at my Indian brother, and it can be, Hanukkah for the Jewish friends. I didn't look all of these up. But I'm just thinking that the different cultures, different traditions, we all have a time of year where we choose to really come together as family. And we make every effort to do that. And we put aside difficulties at that time. We let go of our maybe and we say, and we have an expression, blood is thicker than water. It's sometimes used in different ways, but it can be have a good, like we know even we've got some difficulties, and there is something about being blood family. We have to be loyal to each other and try and make the effort. So we come together, we make a big effort, and hopefully when we see each other, joy spontaneously arises, and we want to practice hugging meditation. We want to hug each other and say, "Oh, it's so good to see you." Yeah. And we look forward to having some days of celebration together, nourishing joy and happiness just to be together. And this is so important to do. And this period of time, it is a strange time. There is so many restrictions on travel and people being sick in hospital or having to isolate themselves. And it may not be possible in the usual way to come together. So maybe some of you are watching, joining us rather online, and from a place where you cannot be with your blood family, I don't know. But welcome, and know that we if we're a spiritual family, we can be together without physically being in the same room. We share the practice, and we share our loving kindness together. So, being together as a family, it's wonderful if we have that, and if we cannot, we find ways to connect together anyway. You may do a Zoom call with your mother, many ways, thankfully, that we can still connect and be there with each other. And if we have the good fortune of having a harmonious family, having love, I think that joy and that harmony, it is something which cannot be contained to just that one family. And it can be very natural that we want to reach out and offer to maybe those that are on their own or isolated. And that is a beautiful thing. And one of the things I appreciate so much about Plum Village is we practice inclusivity. We practice to be a refuge for whoever wants to come here. Yeah, doesn't matter what faith, tradition, and this is all the year round. But how much we really want to offer that at such a time as Christmas. So it's quite painful for us to not be able to open at this time. We are going to be aiming to open next week for the New Year retreat. But we find ways to connect and to be that refuge. We are finding ways, and many online retreats you maybe already have attended and benefited from. So when we have a good home, it is very natural to want to share that energy. But before, we maybe need this love and this place of where we feel very accepted, and we're not judged, and there are not harsh words being used, and we're not fighting. And that is also, we should check that we are doing for ourselves. So the practice of coming home to ourselves is very much the same thing. You know, if you want to offer this love to others, you must first of all come home and restore the peace, touch the joy inside. Through the practice of mindful breathing, we do that. In the Buddhist tradition, we say mindful breathing is the royal way home. It's like the red carpet for you to come back to yourself and find yourself in your body and be able to be with yourself. Yeah, here I am. And be able to say to yourself, I am here for you, just as you are. Can you say to yourself, I love and accept you just as you are? Say that to yourself. Maybe say your name. I'd like to say, let's invite a sound of a bell and practice together. And see what happens. Just to yourself, silently say your name. Maybe have an in-breath and an out-breath and say your name to yourself. and say hello to yourself. Say, I love and accept you just as you are, whatever is there. Okay? Let's just try. Okay. So, whatever happened there, it's okay. Because it was an experiment, to find out what is going on. Don't judge like, oh, it didn't work. If you are completely just thinking of something else, like the next movie you want to watch, then maybe you should judge yourself very harshly for that. Yeah. But if you manage to engage a little bit, then you can pat yourself on the back and just say, I tried that. And what did you touch? Did you touch a resistance to the idea of loving and accepting yourself just as you are? Did that not feel so comfortable? And yet, that's what we want, right? When we go to our home, be loved and accepted just as we are. Can you do it for yourself? And if you cannot, you know, okay, this is interesting. This is something I have to think about. What is going on there? What is the resistance to this about? Yeah, there's an inner critic, perhaps, or I cannot love myself right now because I know I have done this, or I am like. There is never a perfect you to be about. There is always things that we are going to hold in terms of regretting things. But starting right here, we can begin anew, and we can say to ourselves, okay, yeah, it's like that right now. But if I cannot accept where I am now, I have no place to start from. We need to start somewhere, right? We need to start here. So there is no way to this love and acceptance. This love and acceptance is the way. That is the practice. But it's okay if you meet resistance to it, just be curious and just keep trying. And also maybe, what is this resistance about? What is stopping me? Investigate. And with the breath, we simply you can drop that idea of love and acceptance if you want, and just simply come back to just being aware of the breath, being in the body, and just noticing how is this body, and connecting in with the body. Mm-hmm. Simply to be in the body that is huge. If you can do that, that is a real foundation for restoring well-being in yourself, for restoring peace. If you can recognize your emotions and be able to be with your emotion, to say, yes, I have this feeling, and I allow this feeling to be there. You maybe name it it's some sadness, some anxiety, but I can also breathe. Yeah? I can also allow this emotion to be there, and at the same time I can be stable. I can breathe. I don't suppress the emotion, but I'm able to be there with it. If we can do that, then we can talk about peace. Because the practice of peace is not simply, oh, I'm feeling peaceful, therefore I got it. It's how to be at peace with difficulties, with our fear, with our emotions, to take care of that going on inside. Then we can talk about, I'm able to generate the energy of peace. And being able to do this, then we really have something to offer. Cultivating peace, cultivating compassion for ourselves, very naturally, just like I mentioned, if our family is like that, and it will naturally be a place of refuge for others. And if we ourselves, as an individual, have generated the energy of peace and compassion for ourselves, in ourselves, then very naturally it goes out. We don't have to try. I'm going to tell a little bit of a funny story just to lighten the mood up. And it'll be a link to a teaching. So bear with me. It's a bit of a silly story. It's quite funny. It's not that funny, but it's okay. Yeah, it just came to me as I was thinking about preparing for this talk, basically. But I was remembering Christmases I had as a child. So what happened is, I just had a strong memory of we would go to stay at our cousin's place, Uncle Gordon and my cousins Catherine and Judith. I wonder if they see this talk, I don't know. But I remember, the very lovely family experience to be there, me and my brother and my mother, and we would, I remember the Christmas lunch, the crackers, the silly hats. I remember the meal and how I felt so full afterwards. But then there was Christmas cake, and the Christmas cake was too delicious. It's like even though you felt full from the meal, you wanted the Christmas cake. And the Christmas cake had marzipan and it's called royal icing on top. Right? And I found it very delicious. And I remember, this is almost like the anti-story to Thai's story about eating a cookie. Thai has this story about when he was a child, cookies. There was only one cookie for each of them, so they had to really make it last. So it's like they'd be so mindful that they'd take a little bit of cookie, put it in their mouth, and really savor, and then sort of distract themselves from the desire of the cookie just to make it last that bit longer. Well, this is kind of a little bit the other way. The Christmas cake was abundant. There was a big cake and there was lots of marzipan and icing. And I remember I would try to get that perfect ratio of the right amount of cake to the right amount of marzipan that was just perfect, you know. And that meant I would take some of the cake, and then I think that was delicious, this rich sultana cherry. Yeah, it was very, I think it was even soaked in brandy, I don't know. And then I hadn't taken the 5 trainings at that age. And then but I was underage. But anyway, apparently with Christmas cakes it's okay. So, and then I took some of the marzipan and thought, yeah, that's perfect. Just that amount of cake with that amount of marzipan and that amount of royal icing. Just a little bit more cake, yeah, because you know that marzipan and that was a bit sweet, you know. Not that the cake wasn't sweet, and then I'd have the cake. No, actually, I really want to finish with the marzipan taste. So I remember this exact amount, and by the end, I was green. I was sick. I was just I'd eaten way too much. I remember lying on the couch, going, ugh. And I guess, and then my uncle Gordon, come on, time for a Christmas walk, you know. And I say, no, and I feel sick. And I just remember this time. And the next thing is, I just had the insight, or did I? Well, I certainly do now. That you can't. There is no ratio, because you can't. You're not going to find this true happiness through getting the right amount of Christmas cake and marzipan. So it basically is to say that, yeah, Christmas cake is wonderful in moderation. And moderation is sometimes hard, and there is no kind of getting to this point of complete satisfaction just by eating more and more. So that was my lesson. So I'm using that as a little kind of funny way to lead into another teaching about love, a teaching of true love, because Thai talks about the 4 basic ingredients of true love. So it's like baking a cake. You have the ingredients, and I don't know about the ratio, but we'll talk about that. So I'll go to the board. Because, in Buddhism, we talk about true love, and we talk of it in terms of limitless minds. So it doesn't matter how much you eat of this cake, you're going to feel great. It's not going to make you sick, right? If you however much you cultivate of these elements, it's good. So the 4 ingredients of true love. Loving kindness. Sometimes translated as friendliness, and even Thai will go so far as to say this is about friendship. The word Maitri in Sanskrit and Mitra maybe are connected, Mitra meaning friend. And the second ingredient, I'm just thinking of recipes, you know, like 2 pounds of sugar and 1 pound of sultanas. So the next ingredient is compassion. Karuna. And the next one, very lovely to have on Christmas, is a good amount of joy, right? This is mudita. And then the last one is inclusivity. Upeksha. Often termed equanimity, can also be openness. So these are the ingredients of the cake we want to bake. We need loving kindness, we need friendship in our life. And what is true friendship? If we're talking about true love, we have to be talking about true friendship. And a good way to think about true friendship is to look at the other ingredients. Because in Buddhism we talk about interbeing, and in the teachings everything inter is with everything else. So it's very easy to say, oh, what is true friendship? Well, it's friendship that has compassion, has joy, has inclusivity, has acceptance. Another word for inclusivity, acceptance. It has openness. That could be another word for another aspect of inclusivity, right? When we think of a friend, is somebody who enjoys our presence, so there is joy there. We enjoy each other's presence. We're happy to see each other. And we are there for each other when there is suffering, because compassion, of course, has something to do with suffering. We can be there for in good times and bad times. And we accept each other just as we are. It doesn't mean that we don't... in fact, a good friend will call you out if you're not behaving well. And he will be the one, or she will be the one that we trust to do that. And we actually are grateful to them. Yeah. So when we say acceptance, and maybe this was part of your resistance, if you found yourself resisting accepting yourself, it doesn't mean that we don't want to change, to transform. Things that are causing suffering to ourselves and others. We recognize that is there. And yet we accept. And yet we make an intention to cultivate something to transform. When we have a good friend, we are careful. We are careful not to damage that friendship. We know that with just one incident where we use very harsh words, we could damage that friendship. So we are careful to use loving speech. So yeah, these ingredients belong to these are called limitless minds. So we talk about cultivating the mind of love. So the 4 limitless minds. And when we cultivate loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusivity, there's no limit. That's what I was saying at the beginning, that we don't have to worry about getting indigestion from love, this true love. So when we have love in our heart, when we have friendship, and we also naturally have generosity, and we have the energy and the desire to want to give back. Yeah. And Christmas is a time of giving. So I want to introduce another little teaching that I find very beautiful in Buddhism, very beautiful indeed. And it's what we call the three three gifts. I'm not sure if the three gifts in Buddhism, one is the material. You could say the three ways of giving material. The gift of the Dharma. And by Dharma, just to make sure that we're not getting too esoteric, just talking a kind of Buddhist term, but the Dharma is the way. The way of understanding and love. So right away, we're talking about true love. We're talking about coming home, understanding what is our state, how are we doing, and bringing compassion, presence, acceptance to ourself. And then we have that to offer to others. We can be a friend for others. If we can be a friend for ourselves, we be a friend for others, and we can be there for them. So that is a beautiful thing to offer as one of the three gifts in Buddhism. And the last gift is the gift of non-fear. Sometimes the gift termed the gift of liberation, but when we are able to practice very deeply, when we're able to touch that peace that we really need in difficult times, we can touch this experience of non-fear. And when we are able to cultivate that as more and more often, and it becomes something which we embody, this energy of non-fear. And that's something very much appreciated, and when we experience that from someone, we feel so grateful to that person for having that spirit of non-fear. It's not quite the kind of non-fear of I don't know, jump off a cliff or something. It's not just the sort of physical courage kind of that we associate, but it goes very much along with peace and compassion. That kind of non-fear. Maybe also it can have its fierce aspect, like the non-fear to be able to say the truth, to stand up and say the truth. But it is very much with compassion, loving kindness. It goes along. So these are often termed the three gifts in Buddhism, and since Christmas is a time of giving, I couldn't resist this teaching to come in to the talk, because we often do focus on material gifts, and there is nothing wrong with that, because material gifts can be very much contain our love and our good intention. Just choosing a present for someone is already putting that love and that loving kindness thought into the choosing. And even maybe more when we make a present. I remember one Christmas as a student, I ran out of money and the bank refused to give me an extra loan. I remember very clearly pleading with the bank manager, just a little bit more money. I got to buy presents for my. Nope, sorry. So I had to make some presents for my family, and actually, that turned into a beautiful memory, right? So, because I put more thought and more love into the material gift. And if we're artistic, we it's a beautiful thing to put our creativity into giving gifts, into making a place beautiful. Yeah, the decorating of our home is part of this kind of gift of, it's a kind of material thing, but it's actually to bring beauty and meaning to in people's lives. And when we think of Santa Claus bringing gifts to children, we know that really behind it is this spirit of offering love. So it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes the material things are very much needed, So the material thing can be very, very practical. It can be food and water. So that's why in the second mindfulness training we have, I vow to practice generosity and sharing my time and resources with those who are in need. Maybe have a sound of the bell. Just on the theme of material giving, I was speaking to my French brother, some French brothers today, and they were telling me of the association caritative, the kind of charities in France that are very well known, and I thought I'd given them a shout out on behalf of the French Sangha to say, this spirit in France of being there for each other in practical ways. And one Abbé Pierre was mentioned, and this Emmaus, is that correct way to pronounce? And one set up by a man who apparently very famous in France, Coluche, Resto de Cœur, sort of giving out food to finding ways to places that really need, just that basic condition, and in creating these charities, these associations, they also creating community. Because it's people coming together to give, and often the recipients, those that receive, later on they become the volunteers to go and do the giving out of their gratitude. And it's the same with the Dharma. When we get the benefit of healing and the insight that can come when we practice, it's just very natural to want to give back and to offer. And it's partly why perhaps we become a monastic or we set Sangha, because we also want other people to benefit from what we got. And it's just, to find ways to reach out to offer the Dharma to others. When we talk about non-fear, there are a lot of things to be to be frightened of in this time. What is going on and things, and we can lose ourselves, lose our stability. So to find our feet, to find our stability in these times is something so important and important to offer. As a community, we can do it even better than as an individual. But we all have to play our part, right? We have to do our part in taking care of our fear, our emotions. And we can also be there for each other in doing that and kind of encouraging each other. And how wonderful if we can do that. And we create, the beautiful image of a boat, which can have more stones than what the image is like you drop a stone into a pond and it falls directly. But if you have a boat, which is like a community, that boat can contain many stones and they don't sink. They stay afloat. So the image gives us this feeling of together we become a kind of super organism. Like the body is an organism, but together we become superpower. And we have this ability to be a refuge for many people. And we become that boat. And that is through our individual practice as well. So the difference between individual and collective, right? We see the connection. We do need each other. And I think Christmas is a time where it becomes very apparent. We need family, we need, practicing on our own is not so much fun, not so much joy. So if we find ourselves on our own, and we know somebody is on their own, we try to connect. But also there is a teaching very relevant to this, which is in the Bleak Midwinter Carol, which is sometimes, we do find us, even we're with our family or we're with our community, and yet feeling something happening for us, and we're a bit on our own with it. And we need to know that we're not the only one that's feeling like that. And we practice like roots and the animals that know how to hibernate, or whatever image, the trees that let go of their leaves. We practice to come back deeply to ourselves. We trust, in the cycle that the spring will come. But winter can also be a beautiful time if we know how to practice. Even with our sadness, in touch with our sadness, we're sometimes touching more depth. I want to read the most extraordinary letter that I came across just yesterday in a book that I've been reading, a new book. It's been made by a Christian guy called Mark Andrus. This book is called Brothers in the Beloved Community. I think the beloved community is a concept that very much Martin Luther King espoused, and Thai took on the project of building a beloved community. He said he doubled his efforts to bring the beloved community into reality after Martin Luther King was killed. So this book is largely concerned with that relationship with Thai and Martin Luther King, but this is a letter that speaks to something very deep. It's got many teachings in it, and one of the main teachings is that Thai is human too, and also has his wounds and his sadness, his loneliness. And as a teacher, he, like a parent to us, often, as a monastic disciple, he would always call us con, Vietnamese for child. And so, like, if you imagine, your child, you have to shield them from, you want to offer them your stability and your non-fear, which Thai had plenty of. He had plenty of joy and plenty of love and understanding to offer, and that's what he knew his disciples, his children needed. But Thai also carried his own store of sadness. And this letter was written to a Jesuit priest called Father Daniel Berrigan. And they, in fact, produced a book together. There's a conversation called The Raft is Not the Shore, right? And kind of conversations between a Buddhist and a Christian towards a Buddhist-Christian awareness. So this letter was dated in May 2010, so not so long ago. And it was at a time when Daniel Berrigan was probably in his 90s. Thai is sharing about a dream he had, a dream of meeting Father Daniel Berrigan. And as many of us are familiar with, Thai speaks about himself in the third person. So just in case you hear it sounds funny. So Thai is talking about his dream and his experience. Just recently, about 10 days ago, in a dream, Thai saw his friend, Father Daniel Berrigan. He is now over 90 years old. Sitting next to this courageous monk, Thai recognized that he was worthy of all respect and reverence. Thai saw that he was sitting alone with Father Berrigan in an open space, and he opened his arms to embrace Thai. And Thai also opened his arms to embrace his friend with all his heart, in the true spirit of the Plum Village practice of hugging meditation. At first, there was only happiness and the peace of brotherhood. But soon an unsettled energy arose in Thai. It was the energy of sadness, pain, and loneliness. It felt strange, but Thai was able to recognize and accept these mental formations. Thai had thought that those mental formations had already been transformed, and if their energy still existed, they would be minimal. But it was not so. Thai's whole being quaked with the feeling. Thai's arms were transmitting to the person he was facing the energy of sadness, pain, and loneliness. Thai felt clearly that the other person was also receiving it and responding to it. The time of their embrace was quite long, and Thai allowed himself to express those pains naturally and sincerely. Waking up, Thai knew the dream had helped his own well-being because he'd had the opportunity to recognize and share his sadness and pain with a dear friend who had the capacity to touch and understand that sadness and pain, having gone through similar difficulties, sadness, and loneliness. Thai thinks that in our lives, those with whom we can share like that are few, even within our own tradition. When we embrace a brother, a friend, or a disciple, we only want to transmit the energy of peace and love, And the other person may believe that we only have such beautiful and peaceful energy, but we are still human. And even though the energy of sadness and pain may be under control and transformed, it is still in our human nature. If it would sleep quietly, we would be peaceful enough. But its presence is also very important. Thanks to it, we can recognize and understand other people's suffering and pain. And we can also acknowledge the good fortunes and wonders available in the present moment, in us and around us. Yeah, so for me this this letter from Thai, even it's about a dream, lets us know that Thai is human, and he needs also to be able to have a brother, or a sister that he can truly feel free to be in touch with his pain. We also want to protect people from our suffering, and that is a very wholesome thing, when we don't want to transmit our suffering, especially if that person we know is not so capable of being stable if they to receive that. And we see that their need is for our stability, for our calm, for our peace, for our joy. So this is the case for all of us, not just Thai, that we practice to be mindful about who we're with and who we can share with. When we share in a Dharma sharing group, if I am a facilitator, I have to be, I don't just come with all of my suffering. I'm helping hold space. I share maybe some to also inspire others to feel safe to share their suffering, but I don't want to kind of give everything, ask for all this support from the group who are maybe new practitioners. And so it is a beautiful thing to hear this from Thai, that he found a brother that he could express that with. And we all need that. It gives us kind of permission. And it reminds us that when we are listening to someone, the practice of deep listening, it means we don't need to fix somebody right away. Like, we give them a chance to express what is on their hearts. And we help them be in touch with what is there, so that they can let it be felt and kind of let it flow, let it move in them. And this is, we can do that for each other, be there for each other. One day I will be there for Mick, another day Mick will be there for me. It's like we switch roles. We can be there for each other. So this is being there with compassion for ourselves, and also knowing that we sometimes need that support from others. And yes, we want to generate the energy of joy to balance the suffering. And there is something very instinctive in all of us, that especially at this time of Christmas, we know it's so important to generate the energy of joy. When we have in the Christian tradition the candles of Advent, I'm very inspired by the 4 candles, the 4 Sundays before leading up to Christmas. The brothers and sisters like to come together on the 4 Sundays, the Advent Sundays, and each candle represents a different quality. There is one for peace, there is one for hope. Maybe the first one is hope, and it is also bringing the light of into the darkness. Yeah. In the Nordic countries, they very much celebrate on the 13th of December the Saint Lucia, the Christian saint who kind of represents bringing light into the darkness. They light candles, etc. And in the sort of solstice time, when very dark long dark nights, we imagine bringing light in. It's kind of a strong image, and it also represents this hope. And there is a strong teaching that I find beneficial, and that is when we find the path of practice, we no longer need to have fear. We have a way. Even we have the suffering, we have the challenges, but we have a practice too, which we can bring to it, and that brings us hope. And I think also when we have a sangha, we know there is hope. When we see the community there. And the second candle of the Advent is also is peace, and the third, which we've talked about, peace as something we need to touch in us, and we need to cultivate the energy of peace through the practice. And the energy of love is the third candle, and the energy of joy, the fourth candle. So it's very much there in the Christian tradition, of course. These are universals: peace, love, joy, hope. So if we remember these qualities, that we can cultivate them. We know it's through the practice that we cultivate them. It's practice of mindfulness, concentration, insight, and there is also a fourth one that's often referred to, the practice of letting go. And I just want to give some attention to this. The practice of mindfulness, concentration, and insight, and letting go, gives birth to, you can say, let's do it the other way around. So the peace, joy, and happiness that is born from the practice of mindfulness, concentration, insight, and letting go. The kind of peace that goes along with joy, the kind of joy that goes along with peace and happiness. Letting go of our fear. letting go of our projects, letting go of our ideas, our notions, with this, there's sort of the need to be right. You know, when you want to argue something, I know this, and we sometimes want to be right at the expense of the connection, the heart connection between us, a sense of the real communication, the real love between us. Letting go of our projects, I've said, and there's another one, letting go of our afflictions. Concretely, letting go of our afflictions at Christmas could be letting go of our devices, putting down our phone, and you know, because I see in families, including my own, it's so like, it's just always on it, you know. Hello, Ava. Yeah, and letting go of our afflictions can also be letting go of our anger, letting go of our again, kind of the ideas that we hold can be kind of like an affliction. We have these strong ideas. Letting go of our worries and our sort of desire to constantly entertain ourselves or eat too much Christmas cake. So, can we let go of these? Just for a little while, just for Christmas, so we can truly be with our family. That is a challenge, but it is something instinctively, and kind of that is the point about Christmas, you know, to come together and to put everything down and to just really be together as a family. So that is the spirit, and that is what we try to do. And we want to also make space for giving and receiving from each other. And really, yeah, I asked my cousin, what is important for you this Christmas? And it was very much this preciousness of being with loved ones, especially the elder generation, not knowing how much more time we have in this time when it's easy to get sick. Just recognizing how precious it is to have each other's presence and to talk and have conversations and have memories together. And we can't do that on our phone and if we're always distracted. This is the time of that we need to drop that and drop our projects, drop our need to wait and argue about things. Even we trigger each other. And when we say let go of our afflictions, we need the practice sometimes to do that. You know, to recognize when the anger has come, to breathe, to let go. Yeah. It's not suppressing, it's not trying to ignore it. It's recognizing, this is my affliction right now. This is my anger. Okay, I know you are there. I know you have a reason to be there. I need some compassion right now for myself. I accept that I have anger. And I let go. This is a practice also. Just let go and step into another place of non-anger, of non-fear. So I'm going to conclude. I'm not going to let you go just yet. I know a short talk is a good talk, but I just had one little thing, which is a funny story. Funny, again, not that funny, but we'll see what happens. About when I was, I think, 8 years old, and I first was told by my playground friend, I can't remember his name, that Father Christmas, Santa Claus, was fake news. It didn't exist. He was made up. And I was like, what? And I remember standing around with some other friends, we were standing, and it was a real shock, And we all looked, and he said, yeah, my dad told me. Santa Claus doesn't exist. He's not real. So what? Okay, so where did all the presents come from then? Yeah, well, it's your mum and dad. They come in late at night and they put them there. So, okay. I don't know what age you were when you found out. Maybe I think I can't have been 8. I must have been younger, right? I mean, anyway, I can't remember. But the point is, I went back home, and my younger brother, who's 2.5 years younger than me, which now, at my Sucha age, means very little. The difference between the age of me. But at that time, he was significantly younger. And I told him. And he didn't speak to me for a week. He wasn't happy at all, So I learned sometimes trying to say the truth doesn't always make you popular, right? Something like that. But the point is, this idea that Santa is dead, that there is no Santa Claus, and that we've been fooled and things like that. And of course, you kind of think, oh well, you kind of say it was a why, because it was fun while it lasted, and the children enjoy it, and it's sort of everybody accepts that we're going to lie like that, and then you say that lying is wrong and things. But the spirit of Santa, and I think I shared this in another talk, Christmas talk, the spirit of Santa as generosity, that is real. It's this idea of looking outside for this kind of Santa figure that lives, the North Pole? And I can't remember where he lives. And that is okay. It's a little bit like some people don't. Maybe some people still do believe in God as being this guy sitting on a cloud with a beard. But okay, if that works for you, that's fine. And me as a child, it works really great. I love the idea of Jesus. Sorry, not Jesus. Santa. It's a Freudian. Santa coming down the chimney and delivering presents. But the spirit thing, the energy of generosity, the spirit of generosity is alive in us, and we can very much act on it and become Santa. Yeah. So we become the Santa, and we make it true. And my insight for this afternoon's Christmas Eve talk is that Santa is a Sangha. Wow, because it's thank you, Mick. Together we can do it. Together we can really offer a lot of the three gifts. Material sometimes is what's needed, and the gift, and in fact the brothers, I asked the 300 spring rolls, I don't know a competition. How many spring rolls did the sister deliver? So, but together we offered spring rolls to the community. You know, we went out and we gave to neighbours and Marie and the fire brigade, and that is just a material gift, but it is with our love. And there was, I think, 15 brothers that were involved in that whole operation. You know, the 4 brothers that went out to give them, and then all of the brothers that helped package and make the spring rolls, etc. And sisters. But I'm saying, did we do it together? Or, okay, we did. So I got mixed up. Huh? All right. Okay, thank you. So the sisters and brothers together made all of these spring rolls. And I was thinking that there was 2 separate operations because I was busy other things. So we all do the same thing as a Sangha, but as a Sangha, we're doing many things to spread the light and the joy and the happiness around, and being a refuge for each other. And for each other and for many people. So this is what we can do. And if you are at home and you know there are loved ones that need your love, and we try to that love, make the connection. We know that right this time there are people that didn't make it home for Christmas, that maybe even some in hospital who are sick, and there are all of the people working in hospitals. There's nurses and staff, and they maybe have too much. It's too much for them, but they're doing it. They're doing it, and we want to let them know, send them our support, however we can, both materially, physically, and also with our. We know that our responsibility is also to practice well in this time, to take care of ourselves and to be a home and a refuge for many people. So thank you for everything you are all doing and finding ways to reach out to people who need, who can love. Sending out people to give gifts along your street. I know somebody from the Sangha told me that they had people that they had enlisted to give gifts in their neighborhood. Just something simple. Or it could be with an association, a charity. So we continue to build the beloved community together, a little bit everywhere. And thank you for being with us today and for being part of this Christmas spirit of generosity, love, of peace, joy and happiness.